Hi, it's Lou Manfredini, Ace's home expert, and today's video is going to be about making your own window screen. I know it sounds kind of funny, but maybe you have an old aluminum screen that's bent or broken, and you actually need to create a new one. At the hardware store, you'll find a kit like this. Comes in white, there's silver, and they're actually aluminum tracks that you can cut to the size that you need to create a new window screen. So the first thing to determine is, how big of a screen do you need to build? This particular kit can build a screen as big as 60 by 60, which is a pretty good size screen, but you can actually cut this using a hacksaw, which I'll illustrate a little bit later on, as to how it all goes together. So once you determine that, you go ahead and build that frame. One other thing that you need to determine is the color of the screen. You can certainly use a charcoal or black fiberglass screen or a silver fiberglass screen. There's also aluminum, but I find that fiberglass is much easier to use. We'll be using the silver color for our project today. So once you measure it all up, it's time to go ahead and start cutting. For the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to create a 2 foot by 2 foot screen. So I'm just going to come to the end of the framing. I'm going to come to the 2 foot mark. I'm going to go ahead and make a mark there. And I'm going to cut that using a hacksaw with a metal blade. Just got to go nice and easy with the hacksaw. You don't have to go real quickly, just back and forth, let the blade do the cutting. Ultimately, what you want is very smooth cuts, and just hold it in place. You can work on top of a workbench, or I've got this up on a block of wood. If you push too hard, you'll bend the aluminum, and that's not what we want here. So hold it firmly. Remember to wear safety glasses when you're doing any kind of cutting. And again, allow the saw to do the work. Okay, now I've cut all the pieces to 24 inches in length, but one thing that I want you to keep in mind is you're going to be using these outside corners that are actually going to put the 4 pieces together. This actually is going to increase the size of whatever you cut by about 3/4 of an inch. So you need to take that into consideration. Actually 1.5 inches, because you're going to put one in like this and the other end on the other side. So when you're measuring the size that you need to cut, don't forget to add 1.5 inches for the outside corners. Now these frames come with the spline already attached in there. As you saw when I was cutting it, I was not only cutting the aluminum, but the spline as well. This, when you put it all together, the spline goes on the inside of that frame. So you're going to take one end like this, and you're going to take this outside corner, and you're just going to place it inside that little groove. Okay, and it's going to be tight. It's not going to be something that's going to be super easy to get in place. And you'll see when you look at the inside of the shape of how the aluminum is going, it goes in one certain way so it fits. And you just sort of line it up there. There may be a little burr left over from when you cut it. And you can take a little bitty hammer and gently sort of tap that into place. You don't want to really go crazy because remember, it's plastic and aluminum, and get it nice and tight like that. And that's what it looks like. All right, so then we're going to put this together here, and I'm going to actually hold the aluminum portion and then just tap the other side as well, bringing it in. So now we have our frame, and it's time now to place the screen over the top of that, but first we have to take the spline out of the frame. Okay, you can use a utility knife or screwdriver to just kind of get underneath it on the end and kind of pull that out. Nice and easy. You don't want to break this because we have to reuse this to set the new screen in. All right, as I mentioned, we're going to use a silver fiberglass screening like this. And since this is a smaller screen and I've got a larger table, what you can do is just sort of roll it out. And you could either keep the roll like this, but in something like this, I would just take the utility knife, since I've got a drop cloth underneath here, just go ahead and cut that so it's out of your way. You know, you just don't need to deal with that, and just cut it gently. And so it's big enough, you know, to be wider. You want a good 6 inches or so over that frame, and now you can go ahead and start to rescreen it. All right, you're gonna need a spline tool. That's what this is right here. It looks like a 2-sided pizza cutter. It actually has 2 edges. It's got an edge that's just like a single wheel, like a pizza cutter, but then the other side has a groove on it. The groove side is what you're going to use here for a fiberglass screen, because you don't need to set the groove first. If it was an aluminum screen, you'd use that first to kind of make that trough that would fit inside that frame. But I'm just going to go ahead and take that with the spline and place it in here, and I'm going to orient the screen in such a manner that, you know, the horizontal and vertical lines on the frame are approximately going parallel with the frame, and then I'm going to get started. Put the groove, the spline inside the groove right here, and you're going to take that part that I told you has got the little wheel, like the little edge in there, and you're going to gently and slowly roll that across. Now you really want to take your time on this, because if you push too hard or you put too much pressure on there, you could slip off and cut the screen. So you want to pull it a little bit once you get the first part of it set, because that'll stretch out the spline a little bit, and then just carefully run that wheel right along here. One of the nice things about a fiberglass screen is that it's forgiving. If all of a sudden you see a ripple or something you don't like, well, you can just peel this back out again and start over again. It's not a big deal. But you just go nice and easy, and you should be able to do it without much of a hassle the first time around. These splines are pretty big, and so don't worry if you don't get it all the way in the first time as you come with the tool. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and cut the excess off with a sharp utility knife. You gotta be very careful here, because what you don't wanna do is have the knife slip and cut your nice new work that you've just created. Here you can see I've got a little bit extra spline as it's stretched out, so just with the sharp knife, trim it just by pushing on it. And then I'm going to take the knife right along the edge of the spline on the edge of the aluminum frame and just place that knife ever so carefully and draw it towards me. Be careful, this is very sharp, right? And you're going to just kind of pull that away so you can see what it's doing, and then just carefully pull towards you again. Pay attention to as you come along there. If you see a little piece of the spline that maybe needs to get pushed back in there, just have that tool handy right there so you can just gently kind of push it all in there, because you want to get that all set. Because once you cut all this, that's it. You can't go back, other than if you go ahead and rescreen the whole thing, and I don't want you to have to do that. There you go. Your screen is made. You built it yourself, and actually, if you get really good at this, who knows? They may hire you at the local Ace to do some work there for you. But remember, we're always here to help. If you have questions, you need the supplies, or just need a little bit of advice, just go to your local Ace hardware store and they can definitely help. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can always go to acehardware.com. Remember, Ace is the helpful place.